guys, sorry about the wind in advance. I forgot my windsock, but I want to take the time to go over some systems now that we have everything kind of on the boat, show you what we got. Didn't run into much. I think the live well pump is the only thing that we're having to replace, so we should get that in and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. But your 2023 Key West 239 DFS and all of the options and accessories on the boat, where everything's located, all the buttons and everything. Hopefully you'll need to know, and you can refer back to this video anytime. But anchor locker, we'll make sure the anchor's in there with plenty of road chain. You have your 2 forward cleats, and of course you put all your bow pads in there and your bow filler, and that is also the optional table. I put the table legs in your stowage here. There is your hydraulic power assist steering, all your wiring. That yellow cord right there is your pull cord to go to the transom into the bilge back there. So if you ever want to add any other transducers or any other accessories, you can pull them through. And then you can see down there is your table base, and then of course we got our door and our windshield that swings across. Like we talked about before, you got your macerated fish box, and this does have a separate drain hole that you're going to want to plug up if you do put something in here. This goes to the bilge, this macerates outside of the boat. And all your switches are here. We'll cover all those in a second after we go through all the external stuff. So push down there. Now we've got it unlocked. Alright, then the door just kind of folds open. There are your covers. So that is the aft cockpit cover, which actually goes from your windshield. You can see these snaps, and it covers all along the side, all the snaps, the whole back of the boat. And then we all have a separate bow tonneau cover for those snaps that you see on the rail right there, if it'll focus. But you get the idea. All has its place. There's our toilet, porta potty, which hopefully will be turning into a holding tank for you. You got a little light in here, and then you have some rod storage if you want to use it for rod storage. Fresh water, I have the tank running, so you have one fresh water here, which it does pop out, so you could use it to kind of wash the deck down if you want. And to close this, all you got to do is pop that in there, and then line that up and push it down. Good to go. Captain's chair, fold up bolster, and then all of your adjustments are down here. So you can see you can rotate the seat and go fore and aft. And then, like we talked about with these seats, this does recline. There you go, seat in a recline position. You can see how far it goes back into the cockpit there too. So nap time. Got some stowage in the wall there, some more rod or tool holders under the gunnel cap. Rod holders there, I got that pump on too. And of course, you know, all the rod holders and rocket launchers, all that good stuff. And I took the liberty of putting the long leg in so you can see what the table option looks like. And then they also give you that short leg that was in here. So as you do have it in the bow filler, the short leg provides support because of how big that platform is. They don't want it bending or cracking or something like that, I guess, even though it is, you know, 1/2 inch starboard, pretty thick stuff. But we'll move over to the Garmin. I know just enough about this to be dangerous. So the Garmin actually has a really good webinar series on their site. So I highly suggest that, because you can really narrow it down to like sonar, chart plotting. And this is the 1042 XSV. So it has a preloaded base worldwide map. So pretty much wherever you go, you're going to get some good bottom readings, so you know what's ahead of you, depending on what chart you're in. And I'm zooming by using this knob. So you can see this blue outline. So you're focused on that screen. So I'm just zooming in and out. And so you can see the different increments of depth as you come up into it, 9 feet, 7 feet, 9 feet. So you kind of know what you're getting into. And then of course you have your sonar in here. Anytime you want to change the screen, I always go home and then your options pop up here. So this is all the latest software. And then again, as you scroll using that knob, you see, and then you can go down to pinned, which is your favorite. So if you go to that screen, there's going to be nothing there. And then charts, you have your navigation chart, which gives you better above water markings, and then you have your fishing chart that gives you better bottom markings, so you know where more structure is. 3D chart, not a huge fan of that one. It just kind of gives you a 3D perspective. And then the fisheye 3D, I haven't used that one much either, but it's supposed to show the boat on top of the water, sonar column, so you can see how far out to the side of the boat your beam is, and then your depth. So it's kind of cool, because then you get the contours underwater as well. So if you're not familiar with the area, you probably get a really good idea of what's going on. And you can always hit back to go to the previous screen, which is this button right here. And then again, we're gonna, let's say, go to combo. And if we want to add it to our pin screen, which is the old favorite screen, all you got to do is push and hold the knob, and it'll pop up and tell you it's added to your pin. So as you find stuff that you like to do, you can add it to your favorite screen, and then that way you're pretty much just going to be on your pinned, and all your favorite stuff will be lined up here. And then you can always delete it by going pushing and holding, and it's going to ask you, do you want to unpin the sonar? No. So like I said, Garmin's webinar series is a lot better than what I'm going to go through here with you. But one of the other important features of this that I like is if you go to vessel and your active captain. So you're going to want to put an SD card in here, and these are the regular SDs, they're not the micros, but you have 2 slots, so you can use one for information, and the other one you're going to want to set as your active captain card. So that way you can get into this application, follow these directions, you'll create your local Wi-Fi network so you can communicate with your phone, and then also tie your Bluetooth into it. And this is going to provide you over-the-air updates, notifications, all kind of good stuff. So you do the account on your phone, follow these directions, it'll log you in, you'll get a screen that shows you if everything's up to date, and whatever other systems are needed into here, it'll communicate with those as well, like your Fusion or your radio. I don't know if they installed the NEMA network on here, but we can always do that as well. So let's go back home, let's go to our pinned and combo. This is a screen I like to use all the time. Fishing chart and sonar. So you have all your information here. Water temp, speed, battery voltage, time, depth, and then again, we know what we're getting into before we get into it as far as depths are concerned. Next, we have our Yamaha CL5. So, newest version of the Yamaha, it's basically the old Yamaha gateway with a screen attached to it. So they're not using the Garmin CL7 anymore. I think they discontinued that gauge completely, this is tied to the digital electronic binnacle. So you see you have your station, so if you added another station, you could have a second station somewhere, third station, wherever you want, and you can select which one you want to use to control the engine. Neutral hold is actually to put this into a non-functioning, so you can just rev the engine without the transmission being engaged. So if you're just sitting at the dock, getting the engine warmed up, and you don't want somebody bumping the throttle, even though you do have this lock on the side control, it's just kind of nice in case somebody runs into this and then you don't go slamming into the boat in front of you. Trim assist, I don't ever set this up. I'm not a huge fan of it. Our conditions are always so varied that basically what this does is it trims the engine based on an RPM. So like right now we would be at full down, which is that gauge here, and then as you increase RPMs, it would automatically trim the engine for you to put it at whatever you set it in. And all those settings are accessible by just swiping either side on the screen. So you can see trim assist is turned off, and then information, boat settings. So everything you wanted, if you wanted to set something in here, it's all in that swipe screen. So you can swipe either direction on the screen and get you here. But we have our speedometer, fuel gauge. We do put half a tank plus 5 gallons in. That way we can break it in and give you half a tank of fuel. We have our gear position indicator, how much fuel we've used so far, fuel economy, how much time is on the engine based on the current trip, which that is resettable in that swipe screen I showed you. And then we have temperature, oil pressure, battery voltage. And you can change and customize all this stuff. So if you didn't want one of these or one of these down here, all you gotta do is push and hold it, and it's gonna ask you to replace the data and what you want to replace it with. So any time we want to go back, we hit that screen there. It's like this one, we can hit boat data, battery voltage, unit, let's go digital, and then you can see what you're charging to make sure your system is, your alternator's functioning. Tilt trim, as you come up on the tilt circuit, as soon as, or I'm sorry, the trim circuit, as soon as you hit the tilt circuit, you will get a flashing bar to let you know that you're off of the trim and onto the tilt. And then coming back down again, and you can even hear the engine sound changes when you go from the tilt to the trim. And then if you just keep going, it'll eventually shut itself off because it knows it's through the trim range and it's trimmed all the way down. Most of this is pretty intuitive and self-explanatory, but in your trip gauge here, so we have our trip hours, our total hours, fuel used, and trip distance. The fuel gauge on the main screen is a float level indicator in the tank with the little donut thing that floats up and down on a pole. So it's not very accurate. It can get stuck sometimes. So if you are a long distance or time between fill-ups, this is a very accurate gauge. So you have 100 gallons of fuel, I believe, in this boat, and then 10% of that is not usable because of the ventilation system on the tank. So you gotta figure you have 90 usable gallons. And if you go through and reset this by pushing and holding, it's gonna ask you, do you wanna reset it? Yes. It'll tell you how much fuel you've used during that trip, so then you can just kind of count down from 90. And then if you wanted to reset your hours, fuel used, and your distance, you can just hit reset all, and it'll reset all the gauges at once. And of course back, again, swipe to go to our main screen, and that should take care of that. I did forget the other functionality on the Binnacle. So you have your tilt trim for the engine, which is how it's trimming the engine, and then put it in gear. And as you're going forward, you have a speed control in this because it is electronic. So you hit down, it's going to tell you speed control is activated and our current RPM, and then every time we push this button up from here, we'll go up 50 RPM increments. Once you get through the range of the usable, where the lever is now, it's going to stop you. So I can only go up to 1550. If I want to go back down, I can dial it down. We can also tell the speed control to base it off of speed over ground. So if you were trying to dial in a troll for like kingfishing or something very specific, and you wanted to take into account water, wind, currents, you can adjust this to miles per hour instead of RPM. But as we're progressing the throttle through that RPM range, it'll tell us to automatically deactivate it because now we're outside of the 1,550 RPMs. But you can reset the speed control at any time at that RPM range and start it all over again. So again, you can dial in a high-speed troll, use it like cruise control, and even as we're backing down and we get out of that RPM range, it's going to tell us that it's deactivated. And then it locks into neutral there. Like we showed you, tilt, steering, key, kill switch goes here. All boats in the state of Florida under 26 feet, you are required to have your kill switch attached to the captain if you're above idle speeds. This is your auxiliary input for your Fusion, and then we have our Fusion stereo over here, which I wanted to show you. Inputs, menu, so any screen here, and you can hit menu. If you want to go to a different input, you hit that, and then we would select FM, push play. Jeez, sorry, that was loud. And then if you want to adjust different zones, you hit the button. We can adjust zone 1, which is the front of the boat. Push it again, it'll highlight zone 2. And push it again, it'll highlight both zones. And do them in tandem. Alright, yeah, Bluetooth. So once you're in Bluetooth mode, you would just hit menu, discoverable, and then it's going to pop up, I believe it's RA70 on your Bluetooth menu in your phone, and just pair there, and you should be good to go. Alright, back to the boat side of things. Got our removable board there, which, like we said before, does have stowage underneath here that you can stow it if you're using the sink. And then the sink, of course, is freshwater sink. It all folds out of the way. And your cooler, that lid stowage right there. And then we got all the cushions on the back here for you, so you can see all the cushions are present and accounted for. And then another little cooler space in here, or just dock lines and stuff like that. Raw water. So we turn the switch on at the panel, and we come in here, storage under this seat. Set live well under the middle seat. Live well does have a light that's on the panel, and then you got underwater lights out back. Your ladder, your shower. So you got 3 freshwater outlets on the boat. This one's actually pretty good pressure. I think the freshwater tank's like 8 gallons. And then your little cooler out back. And then batteries with switch. So your battery switch. You can see up is off. Battery 2, both underneath, and then battery 1. I personally run on one battery or the other. That way the engine's charging one battery. There is a 70, I believe a 70 amp alternator on the 300 horsepower engine, so I don't know if it would charge both or if that's a good idea, but if you're only doing one, you always know you got to back up. And then just, you know, run one day, run the other one the other day. That way if you're out sandbarring and hanging out, listening to the stereo, and you kill a battery, you know you got a fresh one. Alright, so back to the fish box switch panel. This is all backlit, so when you push it, it's going to light up. So one push on the nav anchor lights is going to turn your navigation lights on and your anchor light on. And then another push, it'll light up white, if you can see that. And that turns off your navigation lights and leaves your anchor light on. So if you're moored, fishing, dawn, dusk, that kind of stuff, or just on anchor, you can leave your anchor light on, turn your nav lights off. Horn is a momentary push button. Bilge is on a float switch, but if you feel for some reason the float switch isn't working, you can push it, it lights up and lets you know it's working. Aft live well, turn that on to activate the pump. There is a drain at the top of the live well, so you can just allow the water to fill and aerate, and it'll just dump out of the box. Raw water, as long as you're in the water, you can leave that on. It'll prime. I did check the system, there's no leaks or anything. And then same with the fresh water, it will prime. Fish box. The macerator. Live well light, that's how you turn live well lights on. Courtesy lights, again, 2 position switch, 1 press, red light, gives you your blue lights around everywhere. And if we come back to the switch and push it again, that will then activate your overhead blue lighting. Underwater lights, turn them on there, and then all these accessory switches are open, so nothing is hooked to these. VHF, push for power. It's gonna come on and beep at you. It is beeping at you because it wants you to enter your MMSI number, so you can contact Boat US or the Coast Guard, I think, and fill out a form, enter your MMSI number. Just be very careful when you're entering your MMSI number, because if you screw it up, you have to remove this, send it back to Garmin, have it reset. But that just identifies you if you get into some position where you have to hit your distress button right here. Volume and squelch, or that's, I'm sorry, volume and squelch on this. So it tells you your current volume, push it into your squelch. And then this is your channel selector once it goes to the new screen. So we can select our channels, monitoring on 16, or you can push it in for weather band.
That's after midnight.
And then turn off using the same button, push and hold, and it'll turn off. All right, we'll get it up and running here in a second, but I did want to cover the trim tabs with you as well. So this is the new Bennett system. I actually like it because they're electric, kind of like the Lenco system, but their switch is a little bit better. So you can darken the backlighting, or you can brighten it up right here, and then you can go all up. So you can see both trim tabs are deployed, but if we want them both to come up, we hit that button and it'll pull them up and out of the way. If you turn the key off, it'll automatically pull your trim tabs up too. So if you trailer the boat and forget that you left the trim tab down, as soon as you turn the key off, it'll pull them all up. And then if you were getting in a situation where you wanted them all down, you just hit all down. And then of course, if you want the bow to go down on port, you push it down on the port side, and it'll cause the boat to list that way. And then if you want down on starboard, same thing, and then together. So these lights are telling you which side is deploying. So to get the bow down on port, it's going to deploy the starboard trim tab. And then, of course, you can always make your correction go all up. And it'll suck them up there for you. All right, hopefully this doesn't get too loud, but in gear, gauge tells us to forward. And we can just slowly progress the throttle. Now that we have over an hour, we can get it up on plane and do a full speed run to get our max RPM and make sure we're getting at least 5,700 RPM out of the engine. So the boat planes pretty quick. This 300 is a lot of engine for it. And we're running pretty low on the trim to get it up on plane. So I usually like to trim it up, see the RPMs come up a little bit, speed comes up a little bit, getting a nice RPMs at 53 miles an hour. Coming back to idle. Man, good running boat.